try to make me feel embarrassed. Their attempts have been in vain, but they tell me I'm the one with problems. They're the ones who are insane, so for those who want but won't admit it, you shouldn't feel like that, cause you could be 20% cooler and 10 seconds slower. Shout it out. I'm proud to be a brony, yeah, yeah. I'm proud to be a brony.
Hello mares and gentlecolts, my fellow bronies. Welcome to I'm Brony and I'm Proud. I've got GenjiLim with me. GenjiLim has over 2,000 watches on DeviantArt. G'day Genji!
Glad to be here.
Awesome. Oh, it's a pleasure to have you on the program. And it's a miracle. Someone who's both the same gender and the same age as me. How weird is that?
That's quite a coincidence. In the fandom, there's all sorts of people of all different walks of life and ages, and it's bound to happen sometime.
So, how did you become a brony?
Well, as I recall, it was probably early 2012 when I was first exposed to anything pony related. It was actually just random chance. I didn't have any other way of knowing like bronies existed other than my interest in like StarCraft 2. It happened so that Ponycraft 2 ended up on my recommended list on YouTube. So I was like, Ponycraft 2, what's this? So I click on the link, and if any of you have seen it, it's just this overlay of pony-related characters and events over the dark and gritty StarCraft 2 trailer audio track. It was hilarious. But then I left it there, didn't think much of it after that. Then about like maybe a month later, I found myself clicking on it on the rewatch list and like, man, this is hilarious. Like, this looks like it's a legit show. Like, it looks pretty interesting. I think I'll check it out, which actually was really weird because like, I'm a guy, it's like, you know, I don't typically seek out like girly things and cartoons and whatnot. So anyway, I check it out, and it took a while for the show to warm up to me, I will admit. First episode I saw was Mystery on the Friendship Express. So that's when Pinkie Pie brings the dessert over to Canterlot, I believe. So anyway, it was really neat. And the one thing I like that stood out to me was the Ninja Gaiden reference of the donkey character, like slicing the cake in half. So I was like, what? Like Ninja Gaiden? How did they, what? That's so cool. But even then it didn't catch me. About 2 months later, I decided to give another episode a try. It was Mysterious Mare-de-Well. And what stood out to me, that one was that Pinkie Pie had like her pinky sense going. And that was like referenced. And I was like, oh, like they have this whole ongoing history and narrative going on in the background. That's interesting. I don't know of any cartoons that do that. So then at that point, I decided to watch the first and second episode and to just at least see up to the point where they understood Pinkie had this Pinkie Pie sense. And then that sort of got me into just watching the show consistently. Now, I wouldn't consider myself a brony at that point. I just consider myself someone who was really weird for watching this show on his own. And I bet there can't be anyone who does this. I must be the weirdest guy ever. But then, as you can imagine, I was really delighted to see that there's this whole community out there. I stumbled upon Equestria Daily one day, I think, and I was like, oh, this is awesome. There's so many people who enjoy this, and they're creating this content. And of course, someone made the Ponycraft 2 trailer that was already a brony. So anyway, that was sort of a long story, but that's basically how I became familiar with the show. I guess what finally did it to come to the point where I said, I guess I'm a brony, was on Equestria Daily, there was an art contest to show what it would look like if Twilight won the Wonderbolts contest. And that was actually my first pony artwork that I submitted online and gave to the world. And that was like my surrender to becoming a brony.
Truly is magical. So moving forward, established the story of GenjiLim as a brony. Now let's talk about GenjiLim the creative. So take us through how you, became a creative.
My dad worked as an architect, but I think his heart was really in creating art, and he did like a lot of sketches on the side as a hobby. From an early age, he would encourage me and like all my siblings to draw. He was really supportive to all of us because his father was very much the opposite. Through my dad's college experience and through discovering like how important creativity and doing extracurricular stuff is to him, he wanted to provide better experience for us as his kids growing up. He was very supportive. I even call that he would offer to pay us 10 cents a piece for every sketch that we did, which was so awesome of him. Even though I didn't like actually do very many sketches in response to that, because like I was like, oh, you pay me for like this really crappy artwork, but okay. I really appreciated the sentiment. You can thank my creativity and the creativity of my family to my dad. Ever since I was little, I've been drawing and creating ever since.
That's awesome. I just love that at a very early age, you were already doing commissions.
Could say that, yes.
So, got a bit of an understanding about your past. Talk about what it's like being a creative now. Let's say last maybe 5 years or so. Or you can feel free to talk about even more recently with your work being posted on DeviantArt and how that's helped your creativity along as well.
Over the last 5 years, my focus has actually been towards game development, game design. I haven't been as active in the art realm as much as I'd like to over the last 5 years. I guess in either case, it still counts as doing something creative.
Talk about what got you into game design, into game development.
Well, it's actually kind of interesting. 5 years ago, I found myself wanting to play this game over again. It's an old one called Escape Velocity. Highly doubt anyone's ever heard of it or played it before. Kudos to you if you have. That's awesome. So I wanted to play it, but I wanted to play like a more modern version of it. I searched Google and the free game sites, Steam. I was like, man, like there's not a game like this, and I really wish it existed. You know what? I think I'm just going to make it. Which is crazy because I had this perception that in order to become a programmer or to make a game, you'd have to be some sort of genius or super smart and intelligent, and you had to study and start at an early age. Really hard to convince myself that I should try it or I should do it. So anyway, I began just fiddling around with Flash, using ActionScript to program. I found it so rewarding and so fun to do. So ever since then, I've just been nonstop learning programming. The reason why I chose programming over like pursuing art is because I've always wanted to sort of tell a story and share a part of myself with the world. While that's true, you can do it with art. I think the storytelling in games and the writing you can do is so much more expressive and detailed when you deliver it in a game format. That was what encouraged me to pursue game design and becoming a programmer.
And not to mention interactive. It's not to say that we've got a certain amount of interactivity with DeviantArt, the conversation that happens. Video games is a story that you can very actively participate in. Am I correct?
Yes, there's something special about player involvement that it makes it more of an impactful personal experience that the player has. And of course, it varies from game to game. Well, I could be wrong, but I don't know, the human experience out of playing Halo or Call of Duty, for example. But games with a strong narrative angle to it, with meaningful characters and hardships they go through, is both a shared and personal experience of the player. And so I think that interaction is important, as opposed to art. And I'm not trying to belittle art at all. Of course, I appreciate it. So important to create artwork. But the messages and stories you can convey with art are a little bit more limited.
That's a fair call, and that's probably why video games are gradually approaching that level of art status. And leading in, what do you consider are your influences and inspirations now, because you are multi-talented? So let's talk about both your side in terms of drawing, but also your side in game design, in game development. As you've already mentioned, father and your family has probably one of your biggest influences in the work you do today.
Definitely, my father was the catalyst in getting me introduced to art. So as far as influences to get better at art and to get into game design, I will say it was started stumbling across Dan Luvusi. I don't know if any of you have heard of him. I really hope so. He's this insanely good character artist. So anyway, found myself looking at his artwork and saying, geez, I know this is done with a tablet and with digital painting. After seeing his work, I decided I'm just going to get a tablet. I'm going to get Photoshop, and I'm just going to try to get better at digital painting. And without having the skills of digital painting, I wouldn't have had the confidence to pursue game design and actually make my own game, because I didn't even work with color at the time when I was doing artwork. Other artists I would like to mention, just to kind of help me along the way, would be Dave Raposa. He hosts hour-long digital painting study sessions on livestream, and he does it to both get himself disciplined and to help others do the same. If you're an artist trying to get better, please check out Dave Raposa. And finally, he's been mentioned before, but Feng Zhu is another artist. He is a professional concept artist, founded his own school in Singapore. If you check out his tutorials online, Feng Zhu tutorials, they're all free, they're all available for anyone. So anyway, those are amazing artists that have really inspired me to get better. As far as programming, or rather game design, I think that was just from my past experience playing a lot of video games. That was just my pastime throughout school and high school and college. I think a lot of people can relate to that. And I just have a lot of fun with them. And actually, I found myself being fairly good at breaking them as well. When my whole family would play video games, but I would be the one who finds all the game breaking, not cheats, but hacks that you could do. Anyway, I've always been interested in game development and game design, and I always found them so great to be involved with.
Awesome. So what are your thoughts on the community?
The Brony community. I think it's a bizarre community, but I'm very grateful it exists. Having grown up in a culture that's generally hostile towards having idealist thoughts or emotional expression, it's a society that sort of maintains a general negative attitude towards femininity. Not all the time, but just kind of in general. It's you throw like a girl or run like a girl. This negative connotations with femininity, and especially for men if they exhibit those traits. So I regard the fandom as sort of a minor movement against these cultural biases. I hope that we all, at the very least, appreciate the show for the values that it stands for. While there's bronies that will just enjoy the camaraderie and want to goof off, that's fine. But I'd like to think that among the community, I'm more likely to share values of like kindness, honesty, and resolving conflicts through compassion and understanding, as opposed to duking it out and fighting. And sort of like on a tangent, I feel like there's a lot of physical and psychological violence that pervades mainstream entertainment and media these days. It can be like extremely disheartening and sickening over time to just witness it being so consistent throughout shows and news. Although I can enjoy a dark and violent show like Game of Thrones, for example, I think for the sake of improving our day-to-day social interactions, I really hope that someday we will favor thoughtful and compassionate analysis of events rather than sensationalism. So anyway, to bring things back, I think that the Brony fandom, I'm hoping it's like a small step in that direction.
And is this sort of stuff that sort of led your interest into conflict resolution?
Most definitely. I've always been sort of like a natural peacemaker. I'd always feel kind of hurt when I witnessed conflict within my family between siblings. I'd feel bad, even if it wasn't at me. And I wanted to fix it. I didn't like seeing my brothers and sisters fight. I've always naturally leaned towards trying to resolve things and just create happiness and good feelings for the people I care about. And I happen to be someone who's crazy to care about everyone on the planet.
So Genji, let's talk about the creative process and also talking about some specific examples of your work. Starting off with the Luna and Queen Chrysalis wallpapers. Starting off with the Luna one. First thing about this piece is that the style is striking. It's flowing. There's got a lot of movement and energy about it. How did this one come to be?
That is an excellent question because that's the first time I've ever done anything like that. Really happy with the such positive reception that it got. I was sort of just concerned, like, oh, like this is sort of an experimental style. Like, I hope people like it. And I think it's actually my most favorite wallpaper out of all of them. My process was that I started with a sketch of the figure, did a really quick vector. Those familiar with vector art will know that it doesn't take too long to make a silhouette. I hand painted the wing though, because there's a lot of subtle details and feathers and whatnot. But as for the background, I was just like, let's just go with some orange thing to go complement her blue mane, whatever. And I just threw it up there. There's not a lot of concern about detail, obviously. It's kind of abstract. So that was a really fun piece to work on and definitely a new approach for me. My process was simply just freely applying color to the canvas, painting away.
When you talk about relaxed strokes, when I look at it deeply, it does really feel relaxing. It's got so much flow. Probably a painting that Bruce Lee would be proud of, be like water. We talk about elements of harmony. If we're talking about the elements of life, water is an element associated with emotions. A lot of times those emotions come to play in the dream world. So Luna could easily embody that element of water. And for Celestia, fire. It's almost like the background is Celestia and in the foreground is Luna. And of course, we see throughout the show how Luna deals with that. She knows what it's like to live in someone's shadow, especially when for most of the time she looks like one.
Exactly. Because of that, I think she's grown on me as a character. Twilight used to be my favorite, I think, initially, because I related to her sort of geekiness, her inquisitive nature, and wanting to understand things. Ever since she became Alicorn status, my interest in her has sort of dwindled. So interest in Luna actually a little bit stronger because I think I relate to her more. Thanks for mentioning Luna in that way.
Oh, you're welcome. We've seen Luna develop so much as a character in Season 5. For a pony that's, 1,000 years old plus, as the expression goes, you can always teach a dog new tricks. Not that Luna's a dog. If she happened to step on my doorstep and say hi and come for a cup of coffee and a piece of cake, happily oblige. And also, it's a relatively complementing piece that sort of follows from the Luna wallpaper. It's the Queen Chrysalis one. The Luna one is, it's got a lot of flow, it's soft, and showcasing the beauty of everyone's favorite princess. And then we see Queen Chrysalis. She's got a hard edge. She's a badass. And actually, when I think about going back to that episode with the Candlelight Wedding, whether she was just determined to feed her species, her tribe or not, she seemed to enjoy it. I guess the difference here, lines are sharper. Her personality is sharp in nature. She seemed to have a lot to say and very sort of quickly, and she's not someone you would want to mess with. We talked about earlier about the importance of love and tolerance as a way of changing the world. Funny enough, that's what happened in the two-parter. Love showed the way. So talk about this piece. Talk about your decision to go with this particular style.
I really like that you brought that up. I actually didn't consider it that way, that the sharp, well-defined lines and differences of color complemented her personality, but I can see what you mean. It's great hearing other people's comments and interpretations of your work and style. So my Chrysalis one, personally, I like the overall composition a little bit better than Luna's because of the contrast of values that I used. And I would say that it turned out the way that it did because I think I was refining my style a bit more. Personally, like the direction that I'm taking it. I do plan on making more of this series and probably be building on the progress that I made with Chrysalis. I wouldn't actually have explored this style had I not stumbled across a deviant named Samba Neko. I actually haven't talked to her, or I don't think I even mentioned this to her, but her wallpapers, they have this lovely vector style to it, dealing with silhouettes and a lot of vector symbols and designs. So without having seen those, I wouldn't have even gone down this explorative route with my wallpapers. Just giving credit where it's due.
Thank you for doing that. I'm sure she appreciates it a lot. And moving a little bit ahead in time, let's talk about Falsicorn. Now, any pony who's any pony in the fandom knows our mother and creator of the show we love so dear. She has spoke about creating a show that appealed to all ages. The inspiration behind this is probably clear, but let's hear why you decided to immortalize the creator in this way, in this sort of heavenly body. Now, when I look at it deeper, it's almost like where she is, she's surrounded by these sort of swirls in the sky, or water and sky, that almost looks like the symbol for infinity, symbol for things going forever. We can only hope that the fandom, one way or another, will extend for all time to come.
One can only hope. This was done in honor of Lauren Faust visiting BabsCon. First of all, I wanted to show her my gratitude for what she's created and what she helped create through the fandom and just through the characters in My Little Pony. I was just hoping, like, secretly, like, I want to get that emotional response out of her that she exhibited. I think it was at BronyCon when they gave her a large print of her character. It's pretty popular. You should be able to find it. I didn't decide to do this until the day before the con. So I was working on this piece the morning that the convention was taking place. I sacrificed morning panels just to begin the preliminary work. And then I attended the rest of the day. And then I came back and continued working on it into the night. I was like, I'm going to finish this. I'm going to present this to her at her panel tomorrow. Unfortunately, like anything done last minute, the print and getting it ready to go took much longer than I expected, but I tried my best. I did make it to the con. And I had the print and I had it framed and it was all there. But I arrived at the conclusion of her panel. And because of staff protocol and the convention protocol, I wasn't able to present it to her like she was on stage. I was able to deliver it to her and have it get into her hands, but I didn't get to see her reaction and I couldn't deliver the speech I had planned and everything. So it was a little bit disappointing. But anyway, let that be a lesson to anyone who wants to give a gift. Like, just do it prepared, do it ahead of time so you can make it special. So anyway, that was the driving force behind that one. I really wanted to do something special for Lauren just to show my appreciation. I did write out a copy of the speech that I had prepared on the DeviantArt page. So if anyone's curious, they can go to my DeviantArt, look at the piece, and the speech is there that I have to offer. I have yet to hear back from her. I sent her a note on DeviantArt, but I was just wondering if she appreciated it. Sure she did, but I'd like to just get confirmation. She got it and she appreciates it. Hopefully she does. I spent a lot of time on it. And yes, I would say this is a further evolution of the sort of abstract background style that I've been developing with my wallpapers. Except as you can see, it's a little bit more refined and better detailed. Other than that, there's not much else to say about it. I just put a lot of effort into it and wanted to make it special.
I know what you mean. It's like, God, just want some confirmation. It's like, oh, God, please tell me. Because sometimes you just need it, especially if it's something you poured your heart out into. I myself have been in that situation a few times. And sometimes just a smile or a thank you or something, anything. They say that the little things are the most important, and they are. Really hope for your sake that you get the response that you want from the creator.
On that note, I'd just like to mention to anyone listening to this, please do not message Lauren Faust about, like, oh, this artist has a piece for you. Please reply to him. He did X, Y, and Z. I understand she's a very busy person, and it's best that you don't flood her note inbox with a bunch of other notes regarding this. I let her know, so yes, please respect her.
Space.
Yes.
Space. So much space.
Portal 2,
right? And now looking at the time of this episode, at the time of this interview, your most recent piece, if listeners, you thought Falsicorn is beautiful, you got to check this one out. When I look at this piece, Ember, the only thing I can come up with is grace. She is so graceful here. In the episode, she's pretty much tough as nails, but we didn't see her really flying in that episode, mostly from Spike's perspective. But she probably has had moments like this where she just flies and just feels effortless, one with herself. And it just this piece encapsulates all that. And that gets the credit to the way that episode was set up. Just a character that I guess everyone in the fandom just fell in love with immediately. What do you think?
Yes, thanks for bringing this one up as well. As a fan artist or creating fan work of something, it's really easy to just default on the character that you've been shown and just like, oh yeah, she's badass, she's mean, like, or not mean, but she has these personality traits that were prescribed to her in the show, and therefore I'm going to draw it that way. So I actually like exploring different sides of characters, which I think may or may not exist. I considered Ember, it's like, well, she's somewhat of a privileged dragon. She's the daughter of the ruler of all of them. And at some point, she probably enjoyed her, maybe provided for life, and just enjoyed her free time. So I like to depict this other side of her where she can just appreciate being who she is and just enjoying the sunlight above the clouds.
I really wish I was there right now. That piece is like, man, it just looks so good to be there. Ah, well done, mate. Well done.
Thank you very much. Actually, I started this piece before working on the Fostercorn one, and it's basically ended my long artwork hiatus for maybe at least a year or two. Sethisto on Equestria Daily said, draw Ember. So I was like, I'll do it. Partly because he told me to. Also, I love dragons, and she was an awesome character. There's no way I couldn't have done artwork for her. So I'm so glad that they made such a cool dragon character with such a neat design. And yeah, it was really fun doing the Ember piece.
Very much exudes that, actually. Choking up, so beautiful. And I also noticed that in the bottom right-hand corner that your signature has evolved into more of a hologram, so to speak.
I actually have two that I put on my art. One is the sort of logo that I have on my Deviant avatar, G and L, and the other is the more elegant cursive signing of it. I just try to pick and choose which one seems appropriate for which piece. I did the signature on the Fostercorn because I figure that's a little bit more official, a little more personal. And the Ember, it both complements it and doesn't require this fancy signature on it. So I have them both save as like a vector in Photoshop, and I just choose which one I want to put on each piece.
And to bring us home, what is the future for GenjiLim?
As you know, I've mentioned, I am programming and working on game design. So I really hope in the not too distant future, but within a reasonable time, you all will see a game from me at some point. Right now, currently an independent game developer. I'm doing the artwork and programming for a game with a tentative name, but I'm sticking to it, I think. It's called Cosmyth. It's a mix between Cosmos and Myth, and it's largely inspired by an old game called Escape Velocity. Escape Velocity, I believe, maybe like 1990 something game. It's a 2D space game. You look at your ship from top down, and you basically explore the galaxy and trade and do combat and stuff. And you work your way up like a nobody pilot to mover and shaper of things that happen in the universe. So anyway, that is Cosmyth, except I, of course, plan on expanding on a lot of things that Escape Velocity didn't have. And I'm going to take advantage of all the neat graphics effects you can do and whatnot with modern computing and modern memory and stuff like that. So hopefully in future, you guys will be seeing more of that game.
Well, listeners, we'll make sure to watch this space. Care to add anything else?
I'm going to use the game to sort of explore new areas of games, which I don't think have been explored enough. There's been slight variations of it here and there, but I really want to delve into it. One particular thing that I'm proud of developing, and it's so far working pretty well, is procedurally generated dialogue or randomly generated. My plan is to have no two conversations that you have hailing like other pilots throughout the galaxy be the same. It'll depend on the context, whether or not you attack them or what they're trading or whatnot, their emotional state even, and it will generate a response based on the state of the conversation. That's something I'm really excited about and I hope helps sell the game. And another thing, I also want to make the storyline actually kind of evolve as the player goes throughout the galaxy. And I know games like Skyrim and other role-playing games have sort of done that, where you choose a certain path and take certain action, where it sort of affects the world around you and the ending as a result. Again, I want to sort of expand on that, not actually make necessarily a set number of endings, but it's all procedurally generated. Even epilogue that you get at the end will be generated based on the player's decisions. Finally, something that I'm excited about exploring is replaying old universes. I think Mass Effect sort of did this where you can take an old character from previous Mass Effect game and then bring it into the next one. That's really cool. I like that idea. It's like you spend all this time developing your character and making decisions. And once the game's over, it's like, well, yeah, that was cool. I got this ending, but this character that I got involved with is now just static. Like they've ended, their story is concluded. My goal is once you play through a story arc, the universe will have changed significantly from when you began. Basically, one of the conflicting species might become like one of the dominant ones. And if you replay that old universe, they will actually be at the state they are. The species will have conquered all, and then there will be new stories that are generated based on the previous universe. But also remember the pilots that were created and the places. I know it's all a very ambitious thing to do, but that is the game that I'm trying to make. That is the game that I'd love to play, and that I hope other people would love to play too at some point.
Fantastic. And Genji, where can people stay up to date with the latest developments on this awesome project and other things as well?
For more information, go to www.cosmyth.net. That's COSMYTH.net. And you can follow me on DeviantArt.
Well, thank you, Genji, for being on I'm Brony and I'm Proud. It's been a pleasure to have you, and we look forward to seeing what happens next in your career.
Thank you very much. It's been such an honor to be on your show as well. I just want to say that I appreciate what you're doing on your show, giving artists exposure and let us tell our side of the story and helping our fans get to know who we are. So I really appreciate that too. So thank you.
You're very welcome. Catch you later.
Catch you later.
Bye. This has been I'm Brony and I'm Proud. Lucky Knight speaking. Thanks for listening. Remember to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at IBAIPshow. Proud to be a Brony. Intro and outro by Black Griffin. My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic.
My little pony. I used to wonder what friendship could be. My little pony.